Hey, this is Danae and welcome to the Weekly Read. Boom, that was it. Hey guys, it's Danae and thank you so much for coming back to watch another episode of the Weekly Read. This week's episode is super special to me because I have a super special person here. And I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell you guys a little bit about why she's here, and then we'll get into the show.
Hi guys, my name is Danette Reid and I have the distinct pleasure of being Danae's mom. And the reason I'm here today is to talk about my new nonprofit, Reid Cares.
Okay, cool. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Wow, that's a hard question. So, I am the mother of two, wife of one, and I'm a Westchester graduate as well as Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. And I run a State Farm insurance agency for the past almost 18 years.
Did you talk about your cards?
And I am the founder and creator behind Jewel Inspired Greeting Cards. And I've been doing that now for almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years in July.
I had to bring that up because I've talked about it on the show before, I feel like.
Okay, so yes, I'm the card maker.
Yeah. So
everybody's favorite.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your nonprofit and why you started it.
Wow. So Reid Cares is a little bit over a year old. It was officially established and received its 501c3 status just last month, actually.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And the purpose of it is to address an issue of hunger among college students. So the reason why I started was because back in December of 2017, there was an article that was on the news about some students at Westchester, and a coach had gotten his team together, and through that they were supplying gifts and food to some students who stayed on campus. And my initial thought was that those students were exchange students or international students and could not travel back home. And I later found that that was not, the case. So then a couple of months later, I also, excuse me.
You good?
Yes, I have something in my throat. Sorry. And so then a couple of months later at Temple, they started a charity pantry. And since you had gone to Westchester at the time and Trey was at Temple, I then decided that I needed to do something.
Do you want me to get you some water?
I do need water.
Hey guys, so we're back. We had a crisis and now she's better. So we're going to continue on the last question that we were talking about.
Okay.
And that was just how you got, the inspiration behind Reid Cares.
Okay, well, thank you. Sorry guys, I'm back. So then what had happened after I realized that the charity pantry was open, in addition to the Westchester University Resource Pantry, I thought I needed to do something. And that's how it really started. So I started with a food drive and just put it on my social media and asked people to donate canned goods that would then be donated to both schools.
Okay. And so you said that was in December of 20...
So in December is when I saw the first news thing. And so my first drive actually was the month of March of 2018.
Okay, so before you saw the news article, did you have any idea that students were food insecure? Because, at the time I was in school and Trey was in school and you and Daddy had both been through college. And so was that something that crossed your mind before you saw that?
Not at all. Interestingly enough, when we were in school, it was the thing to be the poor college student, and you had to figure out how to make your money last for the month. But we had access to food. It was just food that we didn't want to eat. So that's what really happened. So I really literally had no idea that was an issue. As I mentioned, I thought that the reason the coach had gotten his team together to supply gifts and food was for those students who were unable to travel back home. And so in my mind, that it just meant that they were from different countries.
It's funny that you brought that up, that back in the day, people used to take be cool with being known as the broke college kid. Because D.L. Hughley was talking about that today, like how people used to have like rent parties and bail parties and things like that to raise money. So it's interesting that you brought that up. But for me, I don't think I realized that. I don't even think it was even. Like when you're you think about something and but it's not something that you take more than 2 seconds to really consider.
Right.
So my junior year, I took that race and poverty class, and so that's the first time I even learned that there were students that might not have housing, but we never talked about or we might have, but kind of glossed over students being food insecure. And even after that, it was kind of like, oh, okay, I kind of know, but it's something that I don't really think about. And then when you started this, I realized just how many students were food insecure and couldn't afford to eat. Do you have an approximate number of how many students on average?
So the studies that have been done so far, they vary. The first earliest study that I was able to find was back in 2010, but it was unspoken.
Wow,
it was only 2010, and the reason why is because the face of hunger does not look like a college student. The face of hunger looks like someone from a third world country, or
from the inner city,
or the inner city, or someone that is a panhandler or homeless. So that's the idea that comes into most people's minds. So when I did start doing the research, there has not been a study that was done that encompasses all schools. So of the schools that have been participating in this, there is anywhere from 25 to about 37% of the students that were surveyed have said that they've been food insecure at some point throughout their college career. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say 25 to 37 people, but 25 to 37%.
So just to give you an idea, a college that we just recently brought on and started assisting is Manor College. It's a small private college in Jenkintown, and they have only one dorm right now, and most of their students are commuting students. And she had mentioned that in a given week, out of about 600 to 700 students, they see 35 to 40 individuals, and they're not always the same individuals. That come through that pantry.
Do you ever think that it's a possibility that people might be taking advantage, or is there some type of guideline or stipulations on who can access the food pantry, or is it open to all students?
So the pantries are open to all students, but interestingly enough, the students who need it tend to be the only students that know about it. So when I went to Temple and did a delivery a few weeks ago, they were having a class, and it was How to Survive the U or something like that. I may be saying the name wrong, but that class, they go to different organizations and different things on campus, and there were some seniors that were there, and they helped get the items out of the car with me, and they had no idea that there was a pantry.
Helping you for.
Right.
Wow.
So they knew that they were helping me get the items for the pantry because they were visiting the pantry, but prior to visiting the pantry that day, they had no idea that it existed, and it's in their main, one of their main halls where the pantry is located. So it is accessible. You do have to sign in.
Okay.
But again, most of the students who need it are the only ones who know about it.
Yeah, so food insecurity obviously creates a lot of issues. One of the main being, a lack of focus or lack of being able to focus. How does that make you feel, knowing that so many students are in school and have so much potential but might not be able to live up to that full potential because they can't afford to eat?
I think that probably is what continues to keep me going.
I know it's a lot, I'm sure.
It really is, because as I mentioned earlier, I'm not just the founder of Reid Cares Foundation. I have a full-time position. I am a mother. I'm a wife. I'm very involved, full-time on all of those things. I'm very involved in my sorority. I'm involved at church. So I have other things that I could easily, I have Cody, who requires a lot of attention.
And then you still have to cater to yourself and your
Right.
social life.
Self-care. My parents are in Delaware, so visiting back and forth. So there are a lot of reasons why I could say,
Like,
you know
just,
what,
yeah.
I don't need to do this.
Mm-hmm.
What drives me is the fact that there are kids that just don't have opportunity. And we always talk about the whole pull yourself up by your bootstraps, or, you know,
if I can do it, so
if you can do it, right, if I can do it, so can you. But that really is not true for everybody. There are opportunities that some people get just by virtue of where they reside. And I think sometimes that the next doctor, the next president, like a future president of the United States of America, could be 2 steps from failing out of school because she's hungry.
Yeah.
Or because he's hungry. And that keeps me moving forward. And another thing that keeps me moving forward is knowing that those students who are trying to better themselves are doing the things that we quote unquote tell them to do.
Yeah.
Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. If I can do it, you can do it.
What is that? It's a meritocracy, right?
Right.
If you believe that everybody. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, but if you don't supply everyone with equal footing, then how are you expecting the same result?
Right.
And so I think just because of that, it just keeps me moving forward. Because I will be totally transparent. When I did the first drive, I said this was going to be my contribution. It wasn't until I actually visited the pantry at Westchester and I saw students shopping. And those students looked a lot like my children, looked a lot like me. And if there are people taking advantage of the system, that happens everywhere. So to use that as a reason why not to give, why not to be involved and supportive, is just an excuse.
I see. Well, I wasn't trying to say.
Right. No, I know, but I mean, just for me, like, you know, when I think about who uses the pantry, do I really have a definition, or can I say with certainty that of the 100 kids that go through Temple's pantry on a regular basis, of them are 10 of them utilizing or abusing the system? I can't say that, but it's not been a focus, so I haven't even
thought about it.
Right.
Yeah, I think I've been thinking about, since you said it earlier, the face of, you know, the people who need assistance. And again, as you pointed out, it's not typically a college student, and it made me think back to that poverty class I was talking to you about. And like, we really only talk about how food insecurity affects people in like grade school, or like people who are beyond college. Why do you think that is?
Because I think that that's where the studies were done, and that we feel good to say that we take care of the kids, right? And we feel good to say that we take care of our older population. The population that can quote unquote get out there and work, we don't really tend to focus on that population. And I think a lot of thought never went into the fact that the very children who we take care of in grade, middle, and high school with free and reduced lunch because of economic issues, they go to college. And they're encouraged to go to college so that they break this quote unquote generational poverty, right? And so now they are there, but their circumstances haven't changed.
Right.
We just stop paying attention to it.
And I think it makes people feel better to believe that because somebody is in college, that, again, like the whole idea that everybody kind of has the same opportunity. I just think that, like, why, I feel like for me, it's like, well, why wouldn't somebody in college, or at least that's how it was at first, because college is expensive.
Right.
And so it's like, well, but not even like think about the fact that I had a scholarship. But like, my thought process was like if they're in school, like why wouldn't they be able to, because all of it just kind of melts together. So it makes you like really realize your privilege. And we talked about this on my show a couple weeks ago, but you think a lot of the time, especially we're taught, especially as African American women or minorities in general, that we don't have any privilege. But then you have to really check yourself, and like I was able to go to school, and I was able to not be hungry, and I was able to afford food, and I was able to wash my clothes and come home and have a car. So it just really makes you think like, wow.
Right. And what really blew my mind recently was speaking with, so of course I've since made friends with the administrators at the pantries. And I was speaking to one of the administrators in particular, and our conversation went from food to basic needs. And she mentioned the number of students who don't have sanitary napkins or tampons during that time of the month so that they don't go to school.
Right.
So they're missing class
because
1 week
of something
out
that
of
they
every
can't
month.
even control.
They can't control it. We don't have any resources, because the other thing that people tend not to think of is, oh, okay, so why can't we have the SNAP program? So the SNAP.
Just explain what SNAP is.
Okay, so SNAP is Supplemental Nutritional Access Program, I think, but don't quote me on the acronym. But it's called SNAP, and it's basically modern day food stamps. That's what we called it. That's where you get your EBT access card. And so some people question, why aren't these students that fit that criteria, that need the pantry, why don't they have SNAP benefits?
Right.
Well, that population, there are some who do qualify, but most don't, because in addition to being a student, you have to meet some other criteria, which includes working 20 hours a week. So just imagine.
So a part-time job, a full-time student.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. So it just makes it a little difficult. So for the person that's trying to get ahead, if I can find a way to get a can of food in their hand so that they move forward, then who am I not to?
Yeah. So did you realize how much of a difference you'd be making or are making?
I did not. I really didn't, because I just knew that there was a need.
Okay.
And to be able, and in a position to fill that need, because as you mentioned, you went to school on a scholarship.
And Trey is even more of a scholarship.
Right. And so when you went to school, we have been blessed to save a little bit of money every month since you were a little girl. So in conjunction with the scholarship that you received that paid for your tuition, we had the money available to pay for your housing, right? And so, but if we did not,
we would have still been fine.
We would have been okay. And then along comes your brother, and he gets a scholarship. Yes, I know you love your brother. He gets a scholarship that is inclusive of everything. So when you think of it like that, and you know that if you had to, you could have, you realize just how incredibly blessed you are.
And so you think that's part of what drives you to do it too?
That definitely drives me, because to whom much is given, much is required. And so this is my way of giving back to those who don't have those same opportunities.
Basically telling God, like, I saw what you did.
I saw what you did for me, and
because I know you.
Yes, you do know me very well. And so I just am floored. But did I know that I would have as great of an impact? I really didn't. When I figured out that, oh, I'm on the right path, was I had a person come up to me who I didn't even know. Like, I knew we were Facebook friends. And I saw him last summer, and he pulls me to the side, and he gives me $100. And he says, go feed the kids.
And
And
made you feel like
it was unbelievable. He was like, I'm never going to be that person in the market.
yeah.
Right? Last month, so we're in April now, March at my, no, so it was February, I apologize. Maybe it had been January, I can't remember, everything runs together. Almost verbatim had one of our older sorors come up to me and say the same thing. And these are people that don't comment, that say...
It just goes to show that people really watch what you're doing without...
Exactly. And I'm like, so there's something that is there, and it's a need that's not being met, and other people are starting to recognize it, because I really, prior to December of 2017, would have never
Right.
guessed that that was an issue.
So not only are you feeding people that need it, but you're also bringing awareness to an issue that a lot of people didn't know existed, and that's really awesome.
And so the pieces of what the goal is for me is that I want to feed the kids first and foremost, and I don't care who feeds them. Like, I don't get, it doesn't have to come from Reid Cares. It doesn't have to come with my name attached to it. I really don't care. If your organization wants to have a food drive, and you can say it was your idea and take it to whatever college, that's wonderful. Because in addition to feeding them, creating that awareness is really important. And then the third thing that ultimately I see Reid Cares doing is being in a position to challenge legislation. Because why are we not feeding college students who are hungry? And the face of the college student is also changing. So you have a lot of students that are non-traditional.
But I think also too, it not even just college students, but just like students in general. Like, I know like some people would get free lunch, and you know, but we pay taxes, and so I don't understand why part of that tax money cannot go to, you know, if we're speaking about like on a grade school level, I don't understand why anybody, regardless, you know, would need to, because we're students, you know. And I like, you know, obviously we didn't have that issue, but if it was like a day where, because I didn't qualify for free lunch, so if it was a day you forgot to give me money, or daddy forgot to give me money, or I didn't have anything, like, I would be asking people for their leftover change,
Right.
or just not eating all day. And nobody should have to experience that, regardless of how much money you do or don't have. So I think it would be really interesting to see what you would be able to do with that, because yeah, you know, everybody should be able to be fed, you know.
And I think that that's just basic.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
we need food,
right.
we need to eat. I think like, maybe this is water. I know you can go like 30 days without water, but I don't remember food. It's shorter. I know it's a shorter period of time that somebody could go without food. Yeah, I just can't remember the exact time frame, but
And you like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I do.
You'll go down the rabbit hole.
I
You'll be
will.
able to tell me tonight.
I will. So, and you know, just going back to colleges, do you think it's unfair that basically they allow students to go there, but they don't necessarily make sure that they're being fed? And do you think college is too expensive? So it's like a two-part question.
Okay, so I'll answer the easy part first. I think that college is expensive, and I think that it continues to grow, right, in terms of your tuition. However, I personally don't see where students are coming out and they're making more money than perhaps someone made 5 years ago, right? So if we're looking at a return, if I give you $10,000 and I get back 11,000, right? That's pretty good. But if I take that up from 10,000 to 11,000, and you're still getting that same 11,000, what really have I done to say this is the reason for my increase?
Right.
And I do believe that the professors and the administrators, I believe that everybody has a right to make whatever amount they deem fair. So I totally support that. However, it does make me question, where is the money going to and where is it coming from? And it's a business.
Or value education.
It's a business. And so let's never lose sight of the fact that it's a business.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this answers the second part of your question, but I do believe that some of it is because it's a stigma to be hungry, right? So if you see a hungry person, again, what comes to mind is not someone that looks like us, right? And so I think that it's been underreported. And until everyone is made aware, because there's over 600 pantries on college campuses in the United States of America currently.
Okay. Over 600, you said?
There's over 600. And the majority of the pantries have been put together and led by students. So I think there's a disconnect that exists between administration and the students who are hungry. Whether it's that they feel they can't go to them, whether they feel like I'm in college, I have to figure it out for myself.
Probably.
I'm not really sure.
It's probably a myriad of different reasons.
But, so I can't place that totally on the school side, because I do feel like once they know, they give space for and they do different things. But their budget is made already. So now you have, your budget is made, and then in the middle of the year, you have some students saying, hey, did you know Danette is hungry? Did you know that Danae is hungry? Did you know that the reason why this person is so super involved, which was very interesting, that a lot of students that were interviewed, they mentioned how active they were on campus, and they weren't necessarily active because they wanted to be a part of all of these organizations. It's that the organizations had budgets, and during their meetings they had food, so the students got involved so that they could eat.
Oh wow, yeah, that's crazy.
And so I just think that, again, it goes back to awareness, and once the awareness is there, by not just the administrators, but also by people like us, tax-paying individuals, who then have to scratch your head and say, what do you mean that you're an Ivy League school and you have all of these students that are hungry?
Yeah, wow. But just to put us a little bit back on track, where do you get your support from? Where's the majority of your support from?
I didn't realize we were off track, but okay.
No, I mean, because I just wanted to be very conscious of time.
Okay, so I think that the majority of my support so far has been from my Facebook family and friends, spreading the word. So one person tells another person, tells 5 more people, and then that is how it works.
But it's been pretty easy to get people to donate.
It has been. It really has been.
That it has been as easy as it has been.
Well, considering I didn't know what to expect, because initially this was going to be my contribution was happening last March.
Yeah.
And so it has been very easy, and I have people who will just email me and say, I'm dropping off food today. and I'm not running like a food drive at the time, but I always collect.
Okay. And so how many food drives do you run a year? It was supposed to be.
It was supposed to be 4.
Yeah, I remember. And like
So
one for every season or something.
it was going to be
Or
one,
2 per.
2 per semester, exactly. But what I didn't account for is that some students live on campus year round because they don't have anywhere else to go.
And are they pay? Do they have to pay extra for housing if they stay in the summer?
That part I'm not 100% sure
Okay.
in terms of what the fees and things are for summer students, but there are students that aged out of the foster system but receive some scholarships.
Okay.
And so they stay year round. So the population is smaller, but the need is pretty much the same because those are the students who access the pantry anyway.
Right. So I know like it might be a touchy subject for some people. Some of the people that are going to the food pantry. So have you been received on campus, and have you met any of the students that you are helping?
So it is a touchy subject because again, there's a stigma that
and some people are embarrassed.
Right. So they're embarrassed. They don't want anybody to know or to see them. So I'm very cognizant of that. The students that I have met have been students who have helped me unload and shared with me their stories.
Okay.
But I don't go out of my way to make myself known on campus. I just go, I deliver, and I normally try to deliver when the pantry is closed.
Okay.
So that the students do have
You
their.
don't want anybody to feel like they like owe you anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I was gonna say, like, do you ever feel underappreciated when you do it?
Not.
Do you even think about it?
I don't even think about it. What just keeps me going again is that I'm probably feeding the next president through the help of our donors.
Okay.
Because I certainly don't do this all myself. I have some fantastic donors who give to me on a regular basis to disseminate the food. But I don't even think about appreciation. Like, that is so, yeah.
And I think it's important to like include that you do have help too, because a lot of people do. I feel like support you.
They do. They really do. I've had people who have offered to do food drives and be a drop-off location for me. So.
And where can people drop food off?
So you can drop food off at 981 North Wells Road, Suite number 10 in North Wells, Pennsylvania.
It's a State Farm.
It's a State Farm agency. It's actually my State Farm agency. You can also drop food off at any time during business hours at Erica Bantam Martin's office, which is located right here where everything is filmed, and that's 1124 South Broad Street in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And then I am normally available to do bulk orders. So if someone has a food drive, I will go pick it up. And you can also make a monetary donation and send that to either through PayPal at Reid Cares Foundation, or you can not email us. You can send a check or money order to Reid Cares Foundation, P.O. Box 183, Glenside, Pennsylvania 19038.
Perfect. So, if we're just being completely honest, and because I know Daddy, he's my dad. He is known to say that you will go out your way to save it. What does he say?
Do you have to go feed a cat tonight?
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So how does he feel about your involvement in this, and does he ever feel like it's too much?
I'm glad that you asked that question. He's been incredibly supportive of this. And I think a part of it is him being educated by what he's found. And I share the stories with him.
I'm sure Daddy gets tired of us, like,
yes.
throwing facts at him.
Exactly. He gets lots and lots of facts. That's what his girls do.
Yeah.
So it's whatever. And so actually, when it's time to load the car, he's my loader.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's been very supportive. Where are you going this week?
Mhm.
Like, and of course he always tells me to be safe. Because
course.
sometimes I will have to go to a pantry in the evening or something. But he's been incredibly supportive.
How has the rest of your family been supportive, or have they been?
So it's the same, whether I am saying, Danae, let's fill up remember that was fun when we did the candy bags?
Oh yeah, that was fun.
So we did the candy bags. Shout out to the Halloween trick-or-treaters, but now Easter's coming up. So if you have extra candy that you want to donate, we're going to do those bags again. And yeah,
okay.
So Danae's just finding out too. What is this? I forget what it's called when you find out something. But in any event,
yeah, I don't know.
So you guys have done that. Trey has helped me load cars. He's met me when I've come down to Temple because parking is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So he's met me when I've come down to Temple, and he will drive me around to where I have to go, help me unload the car. My parents will send me money. My mother-in-law has sent me bags of food and given me connections as well. And so I think that everybody in my circle has just been incredibly supportive. My sorors, like everybody.
But I'm sure you never thought that you would be lacking support in that regard.
I did not.
Yeah.
No, because normally I just come from a family of we're all in this. All for one for all. You might not understand what we're doing, but this is what we're going to do. So
yeah,
I haven't lacked support there.
So where do you see Reid Cares in 5 years? Reid Cares Foundation.
That's okay. So in 5 years, I see Reid Cares Foundation fully established and running with a full group of volunteers that are in all facets. So I see like a hierarchy at some point. So I see a volunteer that is in charge of getting food drives set up. I see a volunteer that's in charge of distribution. I see larger events on a regional basis. And 10 years, I see different chapters of Reid Cares Foundation in other states where they've adopted a pantry or a few pantries, because again, there's like 661
I'm sure by then
pantries. Right, exactly, because there was just a pantry that opened up. I can't remember which school it was now, but it was a school that was an HBCU, and it was down south. And somebody who follows me on Facebook said, oh, here's somebody else for you. And that's the other thing. So I get people who will then, any issue about hunger on a college campus,
they like are right at you.
They write at me, what are we going to do about this, Danette? And I'm like, that's a great question. What are you going to do about it?
Right. And so how are you working to attain that goal?
So I can honestly say that right now I'm not doing everything that I need to be doing to get there.
But one person can also only do so much.
Right. And because of that, I am currently looking for volunteers. Like I'm realizing what my limitations are. And so in order to get the foundation really set up the way that it needs to be, I need help. So I need help with people who may run the food drive from start to finish, including the delivery. Those little things, that means a lot, because I do work.
Yeah, and so how can people volunteer? Like, where can they contact you?
So you can send an email to me at reidcaresfoundation@gmail.com.
Or you can, they could also write to me.
Or you can write to Danae. And I did just I just made my website live.
Ooh,
so you could go visit us at www.reidcaresfoundation.org. And so between me, you, and that, visiting the website, you can get in touch with us.
Okay, and so I have just one more question.
Okay.
So where are the food pantries in the area? Actually, two. I'm sorry.
Okay. So currently there are 35 pantries in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Okay, but
So
instead of giving the rundown, then, since there's so many, where can people find that information?
So that information is available on my website
Okay, perfect.
at www.reidcaresfoundation.org. But I can just tell you, in the Philadelphia area alone, there's Temple, there's Westchester, there is Cabrini, Manor, LaSalle, Philadelphia Community College, Bucks County Community College, Montgomery County Community College, and those are the ones that I can think of right offhand. But if you visit the website actually has a link to the pantries.
Okay, and then my last question is, aside from giving out food, what else do they do? Do they because I know at Westchester they had a section where, for example, if somebody was going on an interview and didn't have interview clothes, you could get it from there. Do most pantries do that, or do they do something different?
So Westchester is actually the model pantry for this area. And so most of the pantries that are just forming, they are following very closely the format at Westchester.
Yeah.
So due to spacing issues, most of them do not have the housing. And I forgot Arcadia. So Arcadia is one of the pantries as well.
Sure, yeah.
And one of the pantries that I take items to. But so they don't have the clothes, but they do accept the household items and personal care items. So in addition to food, they have the sanitary napkins, tampons, soaps, and that kind of thing. And another thing that they do is they have become resources. So you can go to most of the pantries and they can tell you information about what's available in the community. They can help you to see if you qualify for SNAP benefits. So it's becoming more of a human services type of organization.
Got you. Well, you're doing amazing things, and I'm proud of you.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. And so before we go, is there anything else that you wanted to say or any advice that you wanted to give? I usually end my show that way. You pretty much covered everything, but if you didn't, this is your time.
Wow. And I watch your show every week, and I should be prepared for this. So I guess one thing that I would say is that what has really touched me lately is a quote by Mother Teresa that says, you might not be able to feed 100 people, but you can feed one. And so that's what my focus has been. And that's what I would tell people who think that whatever it is that they are intending to do from a nonprofit standpoint, whether it's to feed hungry college kids or provide dormitory supplies or whatever, you might not be able to take care of everybody that's in need. But if we all just could do one, because everybody can do something. And then what my saying, this is my original, right? Is yay, is to be a blessing or be quiet. So if you aren't in support of Reid Cares Foundation, or you think that it's not really a problem, do your research and either be a blessing or be quiet. Don't deter other people who want from helping, because we need all the help that we can get to take care of all the students that we can take care of.
Great. Well, that was a beautiful way to end the show. Thank you so much for being here, Mom. I know we've been planning this for a while, but I'm so proud of you. You're doing great, kid. And for you guys, all the information that she said will be listed either underneath this video or at the end, ways you can help out, places where you can find pantries, places where you can make donations, and all those great things will be included in the episode. And I just want to thank you guys so much for watching this episode of The Weekly Read. As I said, it's super important to me because it's my mom, but she's also doing amazing things, and I feel very blessed to have been a part of it. So again, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you
you.
guys for watching, and that is a wrap.